From the heart of Hawkeye Nation comes the show that dissects the plays, debates the calls, and celebrates the victories. This isn't just a podcast. This is your unfiltered access to the mind of two diehard fans. They live and breathe black and gold, and they're here to give you the honest, raw takes you won't find anywhere else. Get ready for deep dive analysis, passionate debate, and a unique perspective on the team you love. This is Punting is Winning with JD and Keith.
Welcome back, Hawkeye sports fans, to another episode of Punting is Winning, your All Iowa podcast. We are your hosts, Keith and JD. Welcome back. Been a week and a half, 2-week hiatus for us. Had some things going on in life that needed to be taken care of, so back at it, and I'm happy to be back at it. We'll talk about the things that we've missed. First things first, let's talk about the question of the week from 2 weeks ago, which was, should the Iowa wrestling program consider moving on from the current coaching staff after a
very disappointing
season this year?
So far.
Yeah, well, let's call it what it is. It's over. Fat lady sang, she's warmed up, she's already back on the bus.
Yeah.
They're not
enjoying the buffet.
Yeah. It's over for them. It's been over for them since they lost Iowa State, honestly. They haven't really cared. There's been no fire. There's been no pep in the step or anything like that. So I think personally, yeah, it's time to move on from them. But clearly the administration has said no, that's not the case. So it is what it is.
Well, I guess you give them another year. And if they continue to have this downward slide, this is historically too proud of a program to allow themselves to be in the situation that they're currently in. And right now, I think that in the wrestling world, they're losing respect for Iowa, and that's not good.
There's disappointing showings, and then there's embarrassing showings, and they haven't even been competitive in some of these meets. And that's been, I think, the most. You can understand a downhill slide a little bit, or, Penn State is the gold standard right now. And, if you finish second to them, okay, yeah, it's not where you want to be, but you can almost accept it to a point because you know what you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
But they finished fourth in the Big Ten. They did not beat anybody that they really, outside of Nebraska, I guess. They didn't really beat anybody that they should have beaten.
Yeah.
And anything that would have been a cool toss-up, they weren't competitive in. And it's the guys that, the big names that weren't even competitive. We're not talking guys getting beat 3-2 or 4-2. We're talking guys getting tech-falled. That shouldn't be happening at this point in your career. If you're that good of a wrestler, you should not be getting a tech fall if you're in Iowa. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So
yeah, you've either got to recruit better kids to come in, or you've got to motivate the ones you've got. And I don't know if there's dissension in the ranks, if the coaching staff is doing something from a motivational standpoint wrong. I don't know. I don't have my finger on the pulse, or my thumb on the pulse of whatever it is that they're doing, but it certainly doesn't seem to be working this year. Now, I hope this is a one-off, and next year they're back to competitive and in that top 2 or 3 in the nation. Then things will be all right in the world again. But right now, it's not looking good.
Here's the thing that I think a lot of people have said is, we aren't seeing guys that are fringe All-Americans getting better throughout their career. It's not like, these guys are getting coached up. They're top tier high school talent. They're not building them up to make them even better as they get into college, as they're progressing through their freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. I feel like it's like, oh, they're just letting these guys rely on their talent, and that's it. That's it. They're not coaching them. That's where I wonder if that's what the direction that needs to change is. Do they just not? Are they just resting on the fact that they're the Brands brothers and they were All-Americans at Iowa and they're playing the name game and there's really no coaching going on? I mean, that happens. I don't know. I'm not in that room, so I'm not going to speculate and say that they've lost their team or anything like that. But I wonder if sometimes you get a little bit ahead of yourself with, oh, well, you guys should just know what I'm talking about because I'm an All-American, and he's not really teaching it, or they're not teaching it to him. I get that wrestlers are fiery guys and they've got a different mindset and they have to go about teaching a little bit differently, coaching a little bit differently, but we're not that far removed from Spencer Lee, and that dude was an All-American, but I don't know that he ever got better. He was just better than everybody anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just don't see these guys getting better throughout their career. I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, I don't know. You talk about Penn State being the gold standard, and that's true. And Iowa used to be the gold standard for the longest time. But my question is that Penn State getting that much better of an athlete than Iowa? I wouldn't think so. It's got to come down to coaching and motivation at that point, doesn't it?
I would think so.
And Blair Sanderson's getting it done, and Tom Brands is not, or Terry Brands, the Brands brothers are not getting it done. I don't know what the disconnect is between the wrestlers and the coaching staff, but I don't know this.
I'm kind of on the belief of, I think they need to bring in somebody who doesn't have affiliation with the University of Iowa. You need to bring in an outside person who's not been affiliated with the Iowa wrestling program, has a good wrestling pedigree. Let's put it that way. It doesn't have to be, look at Cale Sanderson. He was an All-American at Iowa State. He didn't have any relationship to Penn State whatsoever.
No.
That's what they need to look for. They need to bring in somebody who doesn't necessarily know the culture of Iowa and can change it and modify it and do it the way they want it to be done. I think it's too much right now of, maybe it's the coaches and staff is trying to live up to the standard that Dan Gable put out, and that's impossible to do. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like from everything that we're hearing is that we'll find out next year if whatever he's doing, if they rebrand in the off season, don't take that literally, but yeah, pardon the pun, so to speak. But if they rebrand in the off season and come back fresh and have some kind of redo things and do things differently than they've been doing them, and everything's come refreshed and they're all back to the way they're supposed to be and the way the Iowa fans expect them to be, then hey, tragedy averted. Everybody's good. We're back to but if we have another season like this season, next season, there will be changes. I can almost guarantee it. Yeah, they're not going to allow that. They're not going to allow that to happen 2 years in a row. No.
So anyway, moving on. New question for this week. NCAA tournament time is almost upon us. We have the women's Big Ten tournament is behind us. The men's is just starting today. With that said, what are your thoughts on where Iowa is seated, both men and women? I think the women are pretty locked in where they're at. I think that's a 2.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious to hear what people's opinions are of what the men's seed is as of right now, prior to any games played, and what you think they need to do to improve the seeding. Do they need to win at least one game? Do they need to win 2 games? Does it matter if they even win a game that they're going to be in the same seed? Just kind of give us your opinion on what you think.
Well, I can give my opinion, and I don't think it's going to influence anybody or persuade anybody in theirs, but I see right now, I think Iowa's a 9 seed. But if you lose your first game, there's a possibility you could drop to a 10. But if you win in the first round, it's Maryland or Oregon. If you win that game and then we're having to get by Ohio State, which you beat them in the regular season at home, If you can get by them, then you may climb to an 8. I don't think you're going to get, unless you go out and absolutely destroy everybody and win the conference tournament, which I don't see happening. If you
win
do
the
that,
conference tournament, you're probably going to get in as a 7, maybe a 6.
yeah, if you win the tournament, you're in as like 6. But I feel like right now, like we talked about this earlier, I think that your ceiling right now is an 8. And that's if you win. I'd say you have to win 2 games. I think you have to go 22-12 to be an 8 seed. Anything less than that, I think you're 9. And if you don't win at all, you're probably a 10.
I think right now, as they stand, they're a 10.
Yeah, 3 losses in a row, and if you lose the first round, you're out 4 in a row. You're going in with 4 losses consecutive. It's not. They look at that and say, "How have they done in their last, 10 games or something?" And say, "How are they trending? Are they trending better? Are they trending worse? How is this?" And they do. Those people look at that when they make their selections.
I tell you what, you get that Maryland and the Penn State game back, and it's a completely different. You're probably, if you win 2 games in the Big Ten tournament, you're looking at a 7 seed with those 2 wins.
Well, I tell you, for a prime example, if you beat Penn State when you had them down and lost to them at the last seconds of the game, if you win that game, you're probably sitting right now at an 8 seed and a double bye. I don't think
in the Big Ten, yeah,
because
you'd have the tiebreaker on.
You had the tiebreaker on Ohio State. So I mean that right there, one game would put you in a double bye situation, and that would absolutely help you immensely when it comes to the tournament.
So I think 2 wins and a loss gets you a 9 seed. I think 1 win and 1 loss gets you possibly a 9, but more than likely stay at a 10.
Yeah, I say 2
win 3 games, you're an 8.
I say 2 wins is an 8. 1 win and 1 win's a 9, and I think if you don't win at all, you're a 10. That's kind of where I'm looking at it.
I feel like there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I know people are talking about, and have been talking for a month. Oh, they're safely in. They're safely in. I'm not as confident in that. Yeah, 20 wins is great. 10-10 in the conference. For a first-year coach, that typically gets you in, and it is a soft bubble this year. So, I mean, yeah, you're probably in, but I think at this point, honestly, I would feel better with a 10 than I would with an 8.
It wouldn't probably be a bad idea to go in as a 10 rather than as an 8, to be honest. If you look at it this way, your 8-9 matchups, typically, if you win, you're immediately hitting number 1 seed. Not necessarily the number 1 overall seed, depending on what region you're in, but you're hitting a number 1 seed, most likely.
And okay, give me an idea of the number 1 seeds. Okay, so let's say the number 1 seeds are
Michigan,
Arizona, Duke,
yeah, that's 3.
And who's the other one? Is it UConn?
I don't know if UConn. They might have played themselves out of a number 1 seed. That's not Houston.
No.
Yeah, it could be UConn, I guess.
Okay, so if that's the case, obviously Duke's probably the number 1 overall seed at this point.
Probably.
Based on the fact that they beat Michigan.
Yeah, probably.
Arizona only has 1 loss though, right?
Oh, no, I think they have a couple losses.
Okay, I missed a few of them.
They lost a couple games, I think, one I know they weren't supposed to lose to somebody. I don't know if they lost to Texas Tech, maybe.
Okay.
I'd have to look back. I don't think Arizona.
So the top 2 seeds are probably Duke and Michigan.
Yes. And Arizona would be that 3rd seed or 3rd number 1 seed.
And then whoever of the others, whether it be Houston or UConn or whoever.
Right.
Who do you think Iowa would match up against with those seeds that they would even have a remote chance of beating?
No question in my mind.
Well, against Michigan.
No question in my mind. If Iowa is put in as an 8 or a 9 seed, they will be opposite Duke.
Yep. Oh, guaranteed.
And that's how it's been every year. I don't know how many times I've seen Iowa get bounced in the second round by Duke.
Yep.
It's like it's just a normal thing.
Death, taxes, and playing Duke in the second round.
And going home.
So I think right now they're a 10. They probably have to win 2 to get to a 9 seed. But I could be off.
So. Well, we'll see how it all finishes out. But why don't we talk about?
I say the women are definitely a 2. So let's talk a little bit more about them.
Yeah. The Iowa women finished the season 26-6 and second place in the Big Ten. Did you see that coming? Second place? I didn't. I figured 4th or 5th. Yeah. So I guess you can say that it was a successful season. I would say it was highly successful season for the young talent that we have on this squad, yes, which really bodes well for the future. The way Ava Heiden's playing first team all conference, by the way, and if you saw that or not, Hannah Stolke, a senior, is second team. Kylie Feuerbach made the all Big Ten defensive team, but the progression and the growth of the young players this year. Taylor Stremlow didn't start beginning of the year. Of course, Taylor McCabe got hurt. That gave her the opportunity to start. And I think you're starting to see the confidence growing, UCLA game notwithstanding, the confidence growing within this team that they can compete with anybody, UCLA notwithstanding.
Well, I don't know what it is about UCLA. It's just a horrible matchup to begin with, and I think they get in their head.
It's it. They get intimidated by them. I don't know why it is, but it just looked to me like the other day they were pressing and pushing and trying too hard, and they weren't loose. They were tight and they were tired, probably from the day before when they beat Michigan again. It was just things just snowballed on them. You could tell it. They just couldn't make shots. UCLA couldn't miss shots. I don't know if Iowa just wasn't. They didn't dial in their defense like they had in other occurrences in other games. But to get to the championship game, kudos to them. Kudos to Iowa for that. Kudos for being second place in not only the Big Ten tournament, but in the Big Ten regular season. And I just see great things coming. Wilichko coming in next year. She's going to be good. Addie Deals, providing we don't lose anybody to the transfer portal. The one I'm most excited about, to be honest, is Journey Houston. She is a fantastic freshman. To me, she was the McDonald's All-American on the team this year, to be honest.
I would say that the ones that probably overdid my expectations were Journey Houston, Chit Chat Wright, and Taylor Stremlow.
Yeah.
Those three played well beyond what I expected. Now, that's not to say I didn't expect them to play well, but I did not expect the level of play that they gave.
You know, when Chit Chat came in, she was transfer from Georgia Tech, and she was only shooting about 35% free-pointers, and she went to 46 to 47%. And she had a little stretch there, a couple games where she couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, but she got that figured out, fixed it, and she was really good in that tournament.
She's pretty deadly in the mid-range too.
Yeah, yeah. And that's where I think that we're going to see I know this might make some people upset, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't think we're going to see a drop off at the number 4 next year. I don't think that we're going to see. The reason I say that is because Hannah Stolke is a one-trick pony. She couldn't shoot, not great at free throws, probably in the 55 to 60 range, got better a little bit at the end. She has no jump shot whatsoever. Only thing she was really good at was under the basket, and that there were times when she missed easy layups, and she's rebounding. And I think Journey Houston's an excellent rebounder as a freshman. She's got a much better shot, which will improve.
Well, she's got guard skills
and she's smart, and she understands where to be when shots go up, because she's a great rebounder for her size and for her, being a freshman. She just knows where the ball is going to come out. She can see it. She's got that innate ability that a lot of people have. And I just don't think I don't think there's going to be a very big drop off. And I hate to say that, because I know Hannah Stolke's given her life and her blood to this team. and we appreciate everything that she's done for the team, but I don't see a big drop off at the number 4. I don't.
So what do we have coming in next year? We have Wilichko and who else? Doesn't
I'd
there
have to
one
go.
like out of Wisconsin?
I think there's a girl out of Wisconsin, either that or she's a 27.
That's what I was thinking. The only one that I ever hear of is Wilichko, and I was like, that. I mean, obviously that opens up some room in the transfer portal.
Yes,
To bring in somebody. I think they need to bring in somebody who's 6'2" ish and can hit anywhere from like 12 feet in.
that's where I think Journey Houston could live, right there.
But she's not going to play. She's not going to be able to play the entire time. So you have to have somebody that can step in for her as well.
Well, that's where you kind of hope Tegan Mulaney could step in and
kind of feel like Tegan Mulaney might be on a transfer potential.
Yeah, I wonder. I know she was hurt. Now, what about Emily Rodriguez? Is she done? She's not going to be I saw her at the game the other day.
I have no idea.
She was in the crowd. She was in the huddle with street clothes on. So I don't know if she got suspended for the entire year and they just don't want to tell us, or she's actually been out with a back injury. I don't know, but in my estimation, I said this earlier on a Facebook post. I said I don't think you're going to see her in a Hawkeye uniform again, but I don't know. That's not, I'm not the overall authority on what she does. So
I think that there's some players out there at the lower mid-major levels that will be on the transfer block. Yeah, there was a couple of girls from that Fairfield team. Remember that team that we played early? They just won the championship. They're in the tournament.
Yeah.
Actually, I think there was a projection that I saw where there was a potential second-round matchup between Iowa and Fairfield.
Ooh.
But there was a couple of girls on that team that I was like, if they decided they wanted to transfer to Iowa, I'd take them.
Yeah.
I just from watching that game. So there's definitely players out there, and I think I think Jan Jensen's in a really good position after having a great season like we've had to sell the program even more. Like, look,
she could.
Here we had Caitlin Clark, and we went to 2 straight national championships. She left. We haven't dropped off. Yeah, we haven't been to national championships, but we're probably an Elite 8 caliber team. That's probably their ceiling.
She's not going to have to sell the program as much as she's just going to be able to pick and choose.
Right. So there's going to be players out there that she can go, I think that's a good fit for us. That's a 6'2" low post presence that, and you may want to bring in another point guard.
Yeah.
Bring those 2 in, and I think you've got a pretty strong team because I think Layla Hayes will take a step forward. I think Addie Deal will definitely take a step forward. Yeah. Taylor Stremlow and Chit Chat Wright are both going to just improve.
Mm-hmm.
Ava Hayden, you saw the improvement from freshman to sophomore year. You can imagine what the sophomore to junior year improvement is going to be. She's probably going to be potential preseason player of the year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you've got the building blocks for that team. And
there's some girls out at UCLA and USC that might have something to say about that, but Jazzy Davidson or whatever. Yeah.
As well. So
Juju.
Yeah. But she's going to be in that conversation for conference player.
Sure. Yeah. No, I don't think there's any question about it. Providing she doesn't get hurt.
They keep the core together that they have. If you really technically, yes, Taylor McCabe was a good piece in there, but once they figured out how to play without her, they could play without her.
They're going to have a harder time, in my opinion. Now, this is just my opinion. They're going to have a harder time replacing Kylie Feuerbach, but not from an offensive standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, because she's very good defensively. She's, she made the Big Ten all defensive team. You're going to have to find somebody in that lineup that is going to dedicate themselves to being the defensive stopper.
Honestly, that could be a person like a Journey Houston.
It could be.
I mean, I would love to see it be like a Taylor Stremlow, but I think she's just a step too slow.
Right.
She's not quite to the speed of Kylie Feuerbach.
Right.
I see Taylor being kind of the person that steps in for Taylor McCabe, and just kind of the transition's pretty smooth.
Yeah.
They're pretty comparable players to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference being is that Taylor Strimlow has a little bit more upside when it comes to non-3-point shooting. McCabe might have been a little bit more pesky on the defensive side, but I think that balances each other out, and having her ability to do things inside the 3-point arc that Taylor McCabe couldn't or didn't want to do, whatever the case may be. I think it balances out. And I think, maybe you work on the footwork. Addie Deal could be a lockdown defender. I think she's got it in her. I think she's trying to figure out, do I need to be a defender? Do I need to be a scorer? Do I need to be a distributor? What is my role? And it's, you don't want to say at 33 games or 32 games into the year that you don't know what your role is. But I kind of see that with her. It's like some games she needs to be a scoring threat. Other games she needs to be a distributor. And she's done those things. Now I think she just needs to figure out what's the one thing I need to do consistently. Consistency
is what I was just going to say. There needs to be some consistency with ball handling, with shooting, with all that. And that'll come. That's not, right this year, freshman year is usually, it's what it is it's about learning your role, learning the speed of the game, and just trying to figure out offense and how people move. That is it. And it takes a lot longer than you think it does. And that's just, she stays through for the year. She doesn't leave and go back to California, and she stays for the year on campus. She's going to have that time to work with those players and on their own. They're kind of on the personal workouts, that kind of thing. And Jan will give her a sheet of paper at the end of the season when there's, you can't do anything with the players. She'll give her a sheet of paper and say, this is the things I want you to work on. These are the things you need to improve on. And, this is your time to work on those things and really come back and show me what you've done when we start this practice again.
I tell you, here's the thing that, and it's maybe a little bit overlooked by some people, but I think the biggest positive thing for Addie Deal is going to be having McKenna Wlichko there. Maybe got another West Coast player who you can kind of buddy up and bond with. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that she's had issues with the players at Iowa. I don't think that's but there's a comfort level when you've got somebody that's from your region and you can hang with them and you can kind of do things with them. It keeps you, like you said, it keeps you in Iowa City over the spring and summer, as opposed to going back to California and working on your game by yourself.
Right.
Because you're not maybe, you've got a year that you've acclimated to the Iowa City lifestyle and to the players, but this is going to be one extra person that's going to be like, yeah, this is somebody from my area and I can hang with them. I know that's the way I would be if I went away to a college, and I'd be looking for people that were from similar backgrounds as me.
Yeah, they could talk about their favorite item on the In-N-Out Burger menu, that kind of thing, that we here can't do that because we don't have In-N-Out Burger. So
well,
that's
In-N-Out's a little overrated, but
I've had it too. It's not bad. It's not Whataburger, but we don't have that either.
It's got Mr. Quick. Mr. Quick was the primo. I remember that.
Yeah. 6 burgers and a pound of fries for $7.
5, but yeah.
Back in the day. Now I'm dating myself. Let's talk about what we need to do with the women going forward. First of all, you got to flush this UCLA game.
I think
it was a historic loss. You got to rededicate yourself. You can't let that bother you. You just have to understand, this was a one-time thing. They just happened to be better than we had a bad game, move on.
Everything snowballed.
You got to have the motivation to work hard and have that chip on your shoulder now that, you're moving into you're going to have 2 games probably at home. If you win the first one, you get a second one at home. You can get yourself back on a roll. You'd won 6 or 7 in a row prior to that. There's no reason why you can't jump right back into that again.
Yeah.
I doubt you'll see UCLA for a long time if you even get to that point.
Yeah. I think it's just Jan Jensen being coy, saying, yeah, I'm not going to show you anything until we play in the national championship game.
Well, I would sign up for that right now.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah, that could be.
Anyway.
Bad.
So yeah, I agree. They need to flush this. They need to just get back to the basics, get back to what they were doing UCLA is an anomaly. UCLA, UConn, they're probably the biggest anomalies in college basketball. Let's just say UConn, UCLA, South Carolina, Texas.
Yeah.
Those 4 teams right there. Outside of that, there's a big drop. And I think Iowa can hang with anybody else outside of those 4 teams.
I don't disagree at all with that. It's going to be interesting to see the matchups. If you talk about Fairfield a little bit ago, I don't know. That's not been decided, of course, but it comes down to matchups really. And what, I don't know. I personally don't see Iowa losing the first 2 games. I see Iowa winning the first 2. They're home games. They'll have that home raucous crowd like they always have. It'll be even more because there's more on the line. It'll be even more crazy. That's difficult for other teams to have to deal with. They may say, "Oh, I tune it out." Yeah, okay. To some degree, maybe you do, but it's still there and it still hits you when you walk in. You don't play there. I'm guarantee you, whoever comes in, they don't play to crowds like they do it, like Iowa does.
Yeah, the teams that are going to have to travel to an Iowa City pod will not have crowds like that for sure.
So that's going to be, something that's going to be maybe their first time playing in front of 15,000 people.
Yeah, I mean, we'll look at it last year. What was it? Southeast Louisiana or something like that. They came in there and they were just like wide-eyed and awestruck by.
It would have been 2 years ago. Yeah,
whichever it was. Yeah, that had to be awe-inspiring to them because they're probably used to playing in front of 1,500 people at the most.
Right.
15,000.
Yeah. So all good things. We find out where they're seated on Sunday, this next Sunday. This coming Sunday.
The late show.
Yeah, and I just see them as a 2nd seed. I think everybody else is seeing them as a 2 seed. I just wonder which number 1 seeds region they'll be in. I'd really appreciate if they would stay out of UConn's and UCLA's.
Things that I've heard as far as like they released the top 16 seeds in order. Last I heard, even after Iowa got beat by UCLA, was they were the 6th overall seed. So if that's the case, that puts them in probably the the 3rd number 1 seed region. So it would probably be Texas or South Carolina.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. I just don't want to see UCLA and UConn again. Those are 2 teams that we've already played, and I don't want to see them again until the championship game if we make it that far. And that's I say that tongue in cheek. So, I don't honestly expect that, but it'd be nice to see it.
Yeah. Well, let's say we move on to the men's and wrap up the regular season and talk about their postseason a little bit.
Yeah, not the way they wanted to end the season. 3 losses in a row. 1 head scratcher, Penn State. The Michigan game that they were really in all the way to the end. In fact, I actually kind of thought there was a possibility they could have pulled that one out. They didn't, unfortunately. 71-68 final on that one. But then to go into the number 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament, Nebraska, at their house, having beat them in Iowa City. Then you have to go play them like 3 weeks later.
3 weeks, like a week and a half.
It was about 2 weeks, wasn't it?
Something like
2.5. Well, anyway, you have to play them at home, or at their home, and they're jockeying. Their senior day, they're jockeying for position as it goes to the Big Ten tournament because they wanted to get that number 2 seed. I mean, just like anybody else would. They wanted to win, send get coach of the year for Fred Hoiberg to try to get that. To take them to overtime on the road, you fell apart in overtime, but I thought that was, there's a lot of fight there. And you get out of the Big Ten, you play somebody, I know you got the Big Ten tournament. You're going to play either, we talked about this earlier, Oregon or Maryland. And you're going to have, then if you win that, you have to play Ohio State. It's a rematch. You've beaten them already once. Then at that point, I think it's Michigan after that, I believe.
Possibly.
So, you can do some damage. You can improve yourself to some degree. We talked about that earlier in the show. But you've got to show life. You've got to do something. You can't go into into the big tournament on a 4-game loser. It's not what you need. You have to go in with confidence that you can win. Now, maybe getting a chance to play somebody other than a Big Ten team in the big tournament, that may help. Getting different referees that call things differently. I was a finesse team. They're not really a physically brutal team like some of them are in the Big Ten. So, everything comes down to matchups. It's how you match up with the teams that you're up against, that they're seated with you. So I guess you just have to find a way to pull yourself out of where you're at and just get a win. I don't care if you have to beat Oregon by a point in overtime, just get a win. Get that confidence back a little bit that you guys can win a game and go in. Don't go in on a 4-game loser. I think that would spell disaster for Iowa. Bennett Sturts, congratulations, first team media, all Big Ten. I know the coaches got you at second team, I believe it was, but congratulations on that. We talked about the women and some of the players and how well they played towards the end of the season. And I have to say that the growth, watching Cooper Koch play and the growth that he's shown in the last 4 to 6 games has really impressed me. He's really stepped up, and that's just going to pay dividends down the road. Next year, he's going to have that confidence. Hey, I really played well at the end of the season. I had to figure things out. I had to learn on my own. I had to, get my shot figured out, where I can be and make the shot, that kind of thing. And that's just going to be great for him going forward and for the team. Any thoughts on looking forward to the Big Ten tournament or anything on the games that they played?
You go back to the Penn State game. That one, I know I make a joke about this. I made jokes about this before, but it seems like it's very appropriate that there are teams that come into games that are playing god awful, can't hit the broadside of a barn, been shooting 12% for the last month and a half, and as soon as they play Iowa, they can't miss. And I think that was Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
You got a guy that couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, goes off for 30?
Yeah.
And couldn't miss.
Right.
I mean, how do you beat that?
Sometimes you got guys that just feel it for the day. They just, I don't know what it is. They took their Wheaties or whatever intravenously. I'm not sure, but it's just, you get guys on certain days when they just can't miss. I mean, here's an example. Remember Illinois when we played them in the regular season, the girls? They were 9 for 9 in the second half. And then when we played them in the Big Ten tournament, they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. It's all about the timing, the matchups, all that stuff. It's just, and the one thing that really bothers me, and I made comments of this to several people in the past here, that Iowa has the worst All-American whistle there is. I mean, Bennett Sturts couldn't get a call if he was shot right there on the court with somebody standing in front of him, and they probably wouldn't call it. And it aggravates me because I like to watch basketball. I don't like to watch biased basketball where it's like, I'm not gonna give a call to this guy because, well, he's an All-American. He needs to be shown the way. Or, some people would say, oh, well, it's, McCollum's first year, he's got to earn his dues. No, basketball's basketball. It's a foul. It's a foul. I don't care if they've been in the league for 1 year or 30 years. If they're a 30-year coach or a first-year coach, call it consistently. Be consistent about it. Because these guys, you allowed them, especially go back to the Michigan game, you allowed them to be physical. And then you took it away. I mean, Iowa was actually Michigan was in the double bonus with 10.5 minutes in the second half, and Iowa lost by 3.
Yeah.
And then of course the idiot Michigan fans that I've seen, oh, they're just biased. They wouldn't call fouls against Iowa. I'm like, dude, did you even watch the game?
Right.
Michigan didn't have 3 fouls into the last 5 minutes of the game. Iowa had 13 at that point. Give me a break. And that a lot of those were like, what was the call there? And it just felt to me like, well, conference officials got a hold of these officials at the halftime and said, nope, we have to make sure that we have a number 1 overall seed. So do not, under any circumstances, allow Iowa to win this game.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I mean, conspiracy theory or aside, whatever, I believe that.
I think there's some validity to that. I think that because, the almighty dollar talks louder than anything in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're the Big Ten Conference and you've got a sure number 1 seed, and all of a sudden you see them lose a couple games, and now all of a sudden they're being talked about as maybe not being a number 1 seed, there's some validity to that talk.
Mm-hmm.
I thoroughly believe that. And anytime you throw betting into the situation, it's always going to be a little bit suspect too.
I guarantee those conference commissioners or conference officials have gotten together and said, okay, Michigan, Illinois, Michigan State, probably the 3 most consistent teams in the conference that have the best chance of going the furthest in the big tournament. We need to make sure that they get the best seeds possible so that they can go the farthest, because that's more money in our pocket. Don't care about the rest of these teams. We're not going to give them a favorable whistle. We want to make sure this happens. I almost 100% guarantee that's happened.
Yeah, you can't prove
me
it.
Crazy. I know I can't prove it either, and they call me crazy, whatever. But there's just too much. Like I need to go back to the Iowa USC football game. Once Iowa had lost to Oregon, they weren't going to let USC lose that game because USC had a better chance of still being in the playoffs. Iowa didn't. So, of course, Iowa needs to lose this game. And you saw it. Now, not only did we have some poor officiating, but we had some great play on USC's part from their receivers and their quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to take that away from them. But, we've been around long enough to see some pretty poor officiating throughout all sports. And it's just, when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You just see it before it ever happens, because it's like, yep, not going to get a fair whistle in this game because we're not in a position to be in a playoff, but the other team is. They're going to make sure that they win. And maybe I'm crazy, and people can say that. I believe it. I may be way off base, but I still think that there's money drives too much, and this is a high dollar business. And if there's a way to make more money, it doesn't surprise me one bit if people would cheat to do it.
Let's get back to the basketball team, the men's basketball team, for a minute. One thing I noticed is that 3-game losing streak that they're on. I've noticed that their turnover stat has gone through the roof. There was a time there for about 3 or 4 games in a row that they had 4, 5, maybe 7 turnovers in those games. And then I think it was it the Michigan game? They had 20.
I don't remember. I know Michigan had a ton.
So yeah, Iowa needs to clean up their turnovers and get that cleaned up. And I think that, especially with the slow pace of play that they play with, turnovers for them are more doubly terrible for them, because they just can't rebound from, having with the limited possessions. If you turn the ball over, it's just devastating to your ability to play the game. Here's what I'm thinking too. Iowa needs to find someone in the center position that can be sort of a rim protector type person. We don't have that. Cam Manyaw is not that guy. And it's painfully obvious that he's not that guy. You've seen this and time.
By the way,
what's that?
We had 5 turnovers against Michigan.
Okay, so
Michigan had 18.
Who was it that we had 20 or close to 20? Was it Nebraska?
Probably.
So what I'm getting at is
19.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, that was the game, the Nebraska game. Cam Manio's not that guy. And you need a guy. How many times did we see Iowa give up layups to little quick guards that just run right through on a screen and go right to the basket? Well, if you have somebody there that's kind of a shot blocker, intimidator type, that don't happen. They stop that. That is not something that you would continue to see. I know that kid from Indiana was the very first one to do it. He ran by Iowa for like 12 straight points, all of them on layups. And Iowa couldn't figure it out. Finally, McCollum called a timeout and figured out how, we either keep him from driving, get in front of him, or I don't know what it was. But
well, I think that in that case, that kid actually took a fall and got hurt, and that kind of took him out of this.
That's true. Rhythm. Yeah. And then, after that, you saw that happen. I don't know, the USC kid did it. The UCLA kid did it. Then, it just continued on. It's like, oh, we saw something that we know we can beat Iowa on. And that's what they did from that point on. I mean, everybody scouts, obviously. Why wouldn't they scout Iowa and see that and say, oh, there's an opportunity right there?
The one thing that I guess there were times when I felt like Iowa would have been better played if they'd have just played a zone, and they won't do it. And you look back at like Fran McCaffrey. Fran was a primarily zone defensive guy anyway. And now we're primarily a man-to-man all the time, a switching and all that. But there are times where you can play a zone and pack it in where those guys aren't going to do that anymore.
Right.
You force them to beat you from the outside. And if you have decent enough defenders, you can cover that outside shot in a zone better than teams like Fran McCaffrey's zone teams did because they were slow.
Yeah.
Now, I don't feel like this is a super quick Iowa team. They play better defense because they understand where they're supposed to be in the man-to-man. But there are times where quick passes and screening can absolutely destroys them because they can't close out fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they just need to get. They need to get some, give him a chance to get I hate to say this, non-Drake players,
mid majors.
Yeah, and I don't want to disparage those guys because they're good basketball players.
Yeah,
but you need to supplement those good basketball players with some fairly elite talent.
What people
elite guys?
Yeah, what people fail to understand and realize is that these guys I don't think there's, other than Cooper Koch, is the only one that I know of that played major college basketball. Everybody else was mid-majors. And then when you take a mid-major basically team and put them into the Big Ten, this is what happens. They win a few games. Yes, they're good. They're good mid-major players, but they don't compete for championships. They won't. So you have to interject those people who are Big Ten caliber players, good Big Ten caliber players, in with those. And then you might have a good mix of appropriate, really good mid-majors and really good Big Ten players. And then you might be able to compete once in a while.
But these guys are good foundational building blocks for the future.
I mean, you got three guys that are leaving the program this year, right? Bennett Sturts, Banks, and Housden, right? Those three.
Yeah.
And then minus whoever else decides to leave.
Yeah, and two of which are the only ones that actually got playing time.
Correct. I would like to see Housden.
Now, I've heard speculation from people. I don't know if this is how much validity there is, but people are like, they would be surprised if Fulgaris didn't transfer at the end of the year, or that if Iowa didn't invite him back. I think that's ridiculous.
I think that's ridiculous too.
But people are saying that. I think it's people just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what will stick.
Right.
But I've heard that. I don't buy it.
I don't either. I think he's happy here, and I think Iowa's happy with him.
Yeah, I agree.
You got to give the guy an opportunity to make the transition between mid-major, which he was at Robert Morris, and the Big Time. Big Ten. Big Ten is the best conference of. Well, there are teams out there. Don't get me wrong. Arizona, Duke.
They're the top. They were one of the top three conferences. Yes, by all means.
But if you go 1 through 10, there's not a better conference than the Big Ten. I'm sorry. Pound for
I
pound.
agree.
So
So
you've got to give them people an opportunity, those guys to figure out the physicality, the speed, the understanding of the players coming in. You got to give them an opportunity. This is, 1 year is great that they had the opportunity, but let's see what they do next year. And let's don't cast them aside because you don't think they can play right now. But we need to get some players in on the transfer portal that are legit Big Ten players.
Yeah, I would agree.
So,
well, let's move on from basketball. And you said you had baseball and softball.
This is going to be a quick thing here. I just wanted to update people on baseball. Baseball right now sitting at 10-5. I know they had a game today. I didn't catch the score. They do start Big Ten play at Penn State on Friday, the 13th. And then the softball team is 14-8. They're 1-2. They've already opened up the Big Ten season at Ohio State. It seems kind of weird, and we talked about this a little bit. Why does all the major teams in Iowa play on the road to start the seasons in Big Ten play?
Men's basketball, women's basketball both did it this year. So did the
football, softball, and baseball all started on the road in the Big Ten.
Yeah, kind of leads credence to somebody in the scheduling office doesn't like Iowa too well.
Yeah, sounds like it. But
I'm sure it's coincidental, but I mean, I'm sure. I guess I shouldn't say I'm sure it's coincidental. You talked about it with 8 out of the last, or 20 out of the last 28 have been on the road for the football team. That doesn't seem too coincidental. That seems intentional.
Yeah.
Typically, I can remember Iowa basketball typically has the first Big Ten game is on the road against a team that they have no chance of beating. Michigan State, Michigan, whoever, Purdue. Yeah. We're not going to let you start out the season against Rutgers or
Northwestern
or somebody like that, or Minnesota, where you might stand a legit chance of being 1-0 in the conference.
Yeah, you get to start out 0-1,
and typically it's 0-2.
Yeah,
it's usually the first 2 games is like, we're going to give you a rough one on the road, and then we're going to give you a tough one at home too.
Yeah,
you Michigan State on the road, we're going to give you Purdue at home.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Or Illinois at home. Thanks. Or Illinois on the road, then Purdue at home, or vice versa. It just doesn't seem to be.
Yeah,
I'd like to start out the season with Penn State, Northwestern, Rutgers, Maryland, and then
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another game I'd love to have back too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But that's all I have. We're going to wrap this up quick, and we want to make sure we don't get to an hour yet.
Yep. I don't have anything else other than good luck to the men's basketball team and the tournament.
Yes.
Hoping for at least 2 wins. That would be great. 3 would be fantastic. Just would not. I really don't want to see an offer going out and then limping into the Big Ten or into the NCAA tournament. I just don't want to see that.
One thing I did want to mention really quickly, and if you want to watch the USA team women's basketball in the FIBA Cup, I believe Caitlin Clark's on that team. She's a roster. She's on the roster, and I think they start tomorrow.
Okay.
It's in the afternoon. I don't have to check. I think it's True TV. Maybe you have to check your listings. And
problem is Iowa plays at like 11 tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, we can watch the Iowa game early, and then watch the women's basketball.
Unfortunately, I will be at work, so
yeah,
I'll get to watch it until I get home. Anyway, with that said, I have nothing else. Let's wrap it up.
Okay.
Thanks for all the patronage and the subscriptions that people have subscribed for. If you haven't subscribed, please do so.
Yes.
It doesn't cost you anything. Helps out the channel. We are almost at 80 now, which I know 3 years and 80 subscribers is some people be like, well, that's aiming low, but hey,
we are a niche program.
Yeah. Yeah. So appreciate the listenership and the loyalty. Love doing this. We are going to probably limit our spring and early summer podcasting. I've got a lot of things going on this year. So I know we want to do at least a spring football edition and throw one in like June or July is what we've heard, and then we'll probably kick back in again in August when football's getting ready to start, right about fall camp or something like that. So be on the know for that. But we will probably be taking a little bit of a break this summer, as there's just not a ton of things to talk about.
We'll be on for the next couple of weeks though, with basketball finishing up.
Yep. So with that, we'll give it a go, Hawks, and we'll get out of here, and we'll catch you next week. We'll have some tournament brackets at that point.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yep.
March Madness.
All right. With that, I'll say go Hawks and get out of here.
Go Hawks.
All right. Go Hawks.